Hello and welcome to Learn with Indrjeet. This is another video in the series of videos titled Building a To-Do Management System Application in the latest .NET 8 framework. In the previous video, we implemented navigation and routing, corrected navigation from one page to the other in the application using routing parameters. In this video, we'll implement a add edit to-do modal dialog using which the user should be able to add or edit a to-do with all its features. Along with that, we'll enable hot reload in the Visual Studio. So let's get started. But before that, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on latest content. Let's jump in. So here we are in Visual Studio. I have got the application running, and on the to-dos page, we want to implement a button on the click of which we get a modal pop-up which gives us the facility to add or edit a to-do with all its details that are there in the to-dos DTO model. So let's go back to our page. In the to-dos page, we want to implement that button alongside of this text. So let's go to admin LTE template, and in the UI elements, models and alerts, this launch default model button launches a default model pop-up. We want to implement this in our application. So let me just copy this text, and we'll have to go to the pages and UI folder and open the models.html file. So in the admin LTE pages, UI, models, let's open with code and search for the button. Okay, so this button is here. Let's copy that and let's paste it here. This would be a button. It would be a small button, btnsm, and it will show a plus icon. Okay, so this icon, let's take this icon from here and show it inside this button, and instead of default, let's have a blue kind of a button, right? So btn primary, and now let's hit refresh. So one thing you have observed in all of the videos, that every time we change something in the CSHTML file, we have to come here and refresh to let Razor runtime compilation do its work. Okay, so there is one more very nice feature in Visual Studio, that is hot reload. Let me show you how to enable that. In that case, if hot reload is enabled, you will not have to come here and refresh it explicitly. Okay, so back to Visual Studio, stop the application, and in the tools options, just type here hot, and in debugging general section, enable hot reload. Also in the .NET and C++ hot reload section, just click all these checkboxes, right? So it enables the hot reload functionality, and it says apply hot reload on file save. Okay, so let me show you its effect. It is a very useful feature. Let me start the application, and then we'll change something in the CSHTML file like here, and then we'll see the effect without refreshing the page. Okay, so let me just open the windows side by side. This goes here, this comes here, and on the to-dos page, let's put in to-dos page. And so please see, this will refresh as soon as I click save. Okay, so save, hot reload do its own thing, and then it starts to refresh and the change is visible here. Okay, so let me just delete that and save, and the UI changes would be reflected. Okay, now moving to the modal dialog back. Okay, so let me just maximize it, and now let's go and take the modal default dialog box. So this is the modal pop-up. Okay, so let's copy this and put it inside of this section here, and let the ID be as is, and let's try if this button is able to invoke the dialog box or not. Okay, so save, it will refresh and we'll have to click OK. No, it is not showing up. Yes, because in Bootstrap 5 we need to put in BS here. So it should be, instead of data toggle, it should say data BS toggle. So let's put in BS over here like that, and let's copy this thing, paste that, and what more we just brought in is this. Okay, so here and here. Now save. As soon as we save, hot reload works, and yes, our model is here. So now we'll refactor this model pop-up. We'll put respective input fields or controls to represent the to-do DTO's properties, and also we'll move this dialog box into its own partial view. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So stop the application. First of all, let's move this thing into its own partial view and call the partial view here. Okay, so in the shared folder, let's add a new item, show all templates, and search for partial. Razor view. Yes, razor view. So instead of doing this, let's copy and paste that and name it to manage modal partial. Okay, so this would be the name. Let me copy that, and here it is. So let's remove everything from here, cut this text and paste it here. Let's remove the comments, and now let's call this to do modal manage modal partial here. So the method is this, partial name is equal to shared folder, and then the name of the partial. Okay, so underscore, we just copied that, sorry, this one, .cshtml, and that's it. Let's remove this thing, and now one more thing, let's change the ID of this modal pop-up to say to do manage model, and let's tell that button that your target has changed. So the database target now is this ID. Okay, let's start the application again and see if we are still able to invoke the modal pop-up using this button. Okay, so on the to-dos page, yes, we are still invoking the modal pop-up, but this time it is coming from the partial view. Okay, so partial views are to be used when the same HTML is to be used in on different pages, but here we have done this just to like reduce the CHTML content on this page. Also we want to move this script to its own JS file so that we have a very clean to-dos page. Okay, so let's do that next. So we want to have all the functions to be there in a different JS file. So let's have a inside of these folders, let's create a custom folder over here. So in future, if we have any specific JS files, we can put them in the custom folder. So let's copy this and paste that, and to-dos dot JS. Let's remove everything and let's cut everything from here and put that here. Okay, save. And now instead of this script, let's bring in this to-dos.js. Okay, like so, and ASP append version, let's set it to true so that the browser can append a version to this file for caching purposes. Okay, now let's go to our modal pop-up. Let's run the application first and start adding the input elements for every element in the to-dos DTO. Okay, so let's go to to-do DTO, to-do DTO, yes, this one. So to represent this property, the to-do list ID, we want to have a select input which will show us a list of all the to-do lists so that the user can select a list from here if he wants to. Then a input box for the to-do item. Then we'll have two date pickers. One is for the created on and the other is for the due date. Another one for reminder date. So created on we can take by default, but two date range pickers for due date and reminder date, and one select drop down for repeat, and two checkboxes. Okay, so let's implement these one by one in the manage modal partial. So let's wrap this body and the footer into a form, and the shortcut to do that is Shift Alt W. So by default it wraps it with a div tag. We'll change it to form, no problems, and the method would be post, like so. One thing, let's go there and see. So yes, now let's start doing changes and see how it looks like at every stage. So first of all, we want to change this heading So this is add or edit to do. Okay, next is this guy, delete that, and then let's have let's say only save, and if we click on save, this page refreshes automatically and our changes are reflected. Okay, now let's start from here and start putting some of the fields that we want hidden. So we want to hide the ID first of all and the created on. Let's do that. So here we'll have a input. So input type would be hidden and ASP4 is equal to ID. So where this ID is coming from, this is showing an error because this modal pop-up has no model. Okay, so let me specify that model. At the rate model is application DTOs and to do DTO. Okay, so now see this error goes. So one thing that we are telling this modal pop-up to have this model, the to do DTO model, so that we can have those properties here. So the next property is for the created on. So Control D, ASP4 created on, and by default let's give it a value. Okay, so its value would be something like a formatted string. So I'm using string interpolation, datetime dot UTC now, and let's format it like year, sorry, and month and day, year, month and day, and let's have the time also. Okay, HH, MM, and that's it. Let's have the seconds also, SS. Right, so by default the created on value would be datetime dot UTC now in this format. Right, next thing that we want to do is, so let's see if it says, yeah, this is expected. Let me tell you the reason. We specified this model for this partial view, but on the CS_HTML file we are not telling it from where this model will be fed into this partial. Okay, so here we'll say model, but before that let me just correct one thing. In one of the previous videos we implemented a functionality to show a custom error page to the users, but this is not good for development purpose because I am not able to see the error message. So let's go back to program.cs file and do some refactoring. We'll come back here later on, so it won't take much time. So let me just go to program.cs where we are using the exception handling middleware. This middleware is saying that if the environment is development, then do these things, otherwise show an error exception message. So let's not do this here. Let exception handling middleware do its own thing by doing these. So cut these and remove everything from here and paste back. Okay, so whenever we'll use exception handling middleware, it will catch the exception, will take all the details out of the exception and will prepare a HTML body might send an email to the tech team, and then redirect the response to a custom exception page, right? In the program.cs file, if the environment is not development, we want to use this as well as Sarilog, as well as these status code pages with re-execute. So let's wrap these three lines inside of a if loop, if construct. So if not app environment is development, then do these, and else app.use status code with redirects developer exception page, use developer exception page, okay, this way. Okay, now let's run the application again and see if we see the developer exception page and can track the error. So as of now, our partial view expects a model of to-do DTO type, but we are not passing it where we are calling this partial view. So it should show an error on the to-dos page. Okay. Yes. So see, it says the model item passed into the view data dictionary is of type web pages to-dos model, but this view data dictionary instance requires a model item of type application DTOs to do DTO, right? So let's close that and correct it now. So before passing it the model DTO, we should have one on the CS page. So F7 to go to the CS file, and let's declare a model over here. So prop, the model will be to do DTO, and let's name it model DTO, like so. Get set, and let's decorate it with bind property attribute. So bind property so as to bind all the field values that are there on this form with the properties that are there in the to do DTO. Okay, so now let's use this model DTO while calling this partial view. So model is equal to model dot model DTO, right? Now we are passing the correct model to this partial view. Okay, now we should not see that error, and we'll continue working on the to-dos manage partial, adding more input fields, inside of this model body. Okay, so let it come, to-dos. So error has gone. Now let's continue doing our work. We have only added two input fields that are hidden. So let me just show you that where these are. So inside of this form, see, we have this hidden field for ID and this hidden field for created date. Okay, now inside of this model body, let's have first of all the drop down for to do lists. So let's have a div with class is equal to form control, form group. So first group comes, and then we have the inputs. So we'll have this div a few more times. We'll create that select, and this select will have will be, first of all, it will be for the list ID, to-do list ID. The class would be form control. These are all bootstrap classes that I'm using. And let's say form control border, and one option by default would be to it would say to-do list, like so, and then a validation for this property. So let's put in a span for the validation. So span ASP validation for is equal to the property, and the class would be text danger. So whenever it will be shown, it will be red. Okay, save that, and as soon as we save, the page refreshes. Yes, and now yes, so we have the first drop down over here. Now let's go ahead and add all the properties. The second property would be for this one, the to-do item. So it would be a input box, text box. So let's copy this. In fact, let's type it from starting everything. So it would be a class is equal to form group, like that, and input. So we'll have a input, first of all, ASP4 equals to item, like this. The class would be same, form control border. Let's copy that from here, and then let's give it a placeholder. Yes, so placeholder would say to do item. Okay, let it be, and let's copy and paste this span, but it would be for to do item. Save that. Let's go ahead and see the changes. So let it refresh, and we have the to do item text box. Okay, this button is not submit, so let's change it to a submit button for the time being, and then see if these validations are working or not. Okay, so what we are going to do is we'll click on this button, save, and the form will be submitted, and then we'll see the effect of validations. Okay, so see, sorry, yes, right. So let's go back and implement the next property, that would be due date. Okay, so for due date, we'll have a date range picker, and for that, let me just copy and paste these things, and ASP for due date, that's fine. Form control, no, the due date actual property, we want this actual due date property to be hidden over here. Let me tell you, let me just do that and we'll tell you later. And this text box will be having an ID due date 0. So this input box will only have a date range picker, and the actual value of due date will be hidden. So we'll be manipulating this value from jQuery. Okay, let me show you that bit by bit. So Input ID would be due date, class is form control border, placeholder would say due date, that validation for due date would be here, and then let's make it a read only. So read only, and the value would be empty. Okay, now we are going to bind the date range picker with this control. Okay, so let me just first save that and show you. After that we'll bind it with date range picker. So back, so here we should have a date range picker. Okay, close that, refresh, and no date picker is there, so let's implement that. Okay, so close the application, and in the plugins folder we have this we actually don't have the date range picker and the movement plugins, so let's bring them in from the admin lte template plugins. So we want the date range picker and the movement plugins. Movement is for date time functions, so copy these and paste it into plugins. So paste here, and let's put both of these plugins into our layout page. So shared folder, layout page, and let's put in the CSS first. So font awesome, date range picker, and let's bring this here. Okay, save, and now the JS files. So here is the jQuery, and in fact let's take from validation scripts, let's take these two scripts, copy these and put them also in the layout page itself, so that everywhere they are available. And now bootstrap, just below the bootstrap let's bring in the date range picker and the movement library. Okay, so movement.min.js. okay, so let it be here. Let's remove the map. Okay, save that. Okay, so now we have the movement library, the date range picker library, and the CSS file. Okay, close that, and inside of the todos.js that we created earlier, we want to implement the date range picker. Yeah, so just below this function let's start implementing the date range picker on our due date 0 control. Okay, so let's declare a variable date range picker options is equal to a anonymous object. Let's put in a semicolon over there. So we'll have some of the properties defined. So single date picker is true. First of all, we want only a single date picker. We want to show drop downs, show drop downs for everyone, every year and month. Then we want to auto update input, we'll set it to false. Then there is one more property for time picker. We want the user to pick the time, so it should be set to true. And then we'll specify some formats. So locale, it is an object in itself, so it would have the format, and the format would be a text field, a text value like dd, and year, and then the time in AM/PM format. Then we want the separator to be a dash, and the cancel label would say clear. Okay, and the min date would be new date. Now we have the drop the date range picker options ready. Let's initiate the date range picker. So dollar hashtag due date 0 is the ID, and date range picker is a function, and we want to pass these options that we created to this function. So let's start the application and see if we have a date range picker on due date. So on the to-dos page, here is the dialog, and we have the date range picker. It is a single picker. We wanted to show the drop downs for month and year, and the minimum date is today's date. We also have the time picker. Now let's, if we click on a date and then click apply, nothing happens because we want to implement the apply and the clear function. Okay, so let's do that. So on the due date, let's change this function, dot on apply date range picker. So this is the name of the function that is called when we click on apply button on the UI, and the callback function would be like this, and it gets two params. So picker, the event and the picker are the two parameters that it has, and what we want to do here is we want to take this ID, copy this one, paste, and dot val. So the value is coming from picker dot start date dot format from movement library, and let's format this to our desired format like so. Okay, this is for the text box that is visible to the user, and this one is for the actual hidden property that, if you remember, we implemented here, hidden. So this one will have the value in a different format. Okay, so the format would be y/mm/td and the time as hh. Let it be hh and sorry, let's put it that way, so ss. Okay, same way, if someone clicks on cancel, so let's copy this, on cancel date picker, cancel, cancel date picker, the function would be having the same params, but this time it would do a reverse of this thing. So it will set the value to nothing, and also for the original field the value to nothing. Okay, so let's see this effect on the UI. Let's click there and select 15 again and apply. So this date is here. If we click on clear, it would clear. So we'll implement rest of the properties and the CS part, the CS file part, when the user fills out everything and clicks on save, what happens next. And if the user wants to edit the to do, then that functionality we would implement in the next video. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you found this video helpful and learned something, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with your friends. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, hit the subscribe button below. Your support means a lot to me. This encourages me to invest more time and create more valuable content for you. Remember to click the notification bell so you never miss an update on future videos. In the comment section below, please let me know what you learned from today's video. What was your favorite part? If you have any questions on today's topic or suggestions for future videos, feel free to drop them in the comments. I read and respond to as many of them as I can. To watch more videos on the same topic, check out the playlist or visit the channel. Thank you so much for your time. Keep learning.